All right, just after about 1 month leading a rally here in Charlotte, teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg named Time's Person of the Year. The 16-year-old is the youngest person to ever get that honor. The teen has been traveling all over the world, pleading with global leaders to believe that climate change is real and something needs to be done about it. You guys actually got a chance to hang out with her when she was here. What'd you think? She's here 1 minute, she's Time's Person of the Year the next.
She's an amazing young lady. You know, I know that people can get really worked up talking about climate change and stuff on both sides of the issue.
I learned firsthand when I posted about her being here in the comments of Facebook just how much people feel about her.
Don't you love Facebook?
I love Facebook.
But what I said that day was
particularly,
we need to be better stewards of our environment, and this young lady has got millions of people around the world talking about that. So regardless of what your beliefs are, whether you believe the science that tells us definitively that the climate is changing or not, there's nobody that should argue that more people talking about being better stewards of our planet is a bad thing. And Greta has made that happen.
How could you argue, though, that she deserved it over the Hong Kong protesters?
I'm not
arguing
who.
To me,
I'm
like,
not on the
these
panel that
people
decides
are
Time's Person of the Year.
But I thought they placed you on that panel.
They have not yet. I asked.
The problem is, I mean, what I always say is that by default, no matter who the president is, the president could always be #1 on that list. So
not really this year.
Because they go.
I guess it's Person of the Year, not Best Person of the Year.
They go off of influential. That's the reason why you've had like Hitler and Khomeini as People of the Year. It's not a popularity contest, it's who's influential. And so I say always the president could be #1 on the list. So I think they try to think outside the box.
But Hong Kong protesters, one, what they're doing with their own lives, but then two, the message and precedent they're sending around the world is just, I mean, you could do no more than that.
Has it ever been a group before, though, or is it always?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
It's going to be a group, it could be an idea, it can be
I mean, I think both would be worthy. They've clearly both been...
One thing we can agree, it should be Larkin next year. Or maybe R&D in the QC. It can be a thing. It could be a podcast.
Submit it now.
Right now. How that works, you just call them?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Tark knows a few people. Back here at home, Cats and the Charlotte Department of Transportation launching a dedicated bus-bike lane on East 4th. This starts tomorrow. The dedicated lane will use existing bike lanes and the rightmost travel lane to create a single combined bus-bike lane between South McDowell and the Charlotte Transportation Center. The goals of the pilot program, making bus trips a little bit quicker and enhancing safety for bicyclists. General vehicle traffic will be maintained in neighboring lanes there. Cars may enter the lane to make right turns only. No parking will be permitted on the east side of the street. That's a lot of information. Just be warned if you're on 4th Street. So what's this trying to do here?
Well, there's not really been much parking on the east side of 4th Street already, so we're not losing much there. But we need to make sure that public transportation is more reliable and more efficient for people if we want more people to utilize it. And so if we've got bus rapid transit and that requires dedicated lanes like this, and I think that's eventually what we want to get to. We want people, part of the reason people like to ride the light rail is because they know exactly how long it's going to take them.
Predictable.
It's not subject to traffic. When you get in a bus, you sit in that same traffic that you would have sat in your car on 4th Street, then it's maybe not as appealing an alternative. So in this case, we've demonstrated in the last 2 years that we have a commitment to making sure that bicycle pedestrian safety is a high priority for us. This will continue along those lines, but it'd also make bus travel and bus as a more viable transportation option for people.
But it's also part of an experiment that we're trying to figure out, I think, over the next decade, which is technology is advancing. We know fixed rail and things like that, while it has amazing economic development impacts, isn't necessarily going to move people and reduce congestion in one fell swoop in the way we need a solution to. So we need to figure out, when you look at Providence corridors and Fairview and things like that that are just a nightmare. I mean, roads may very well, with autonomous vehicles and what's happening in the future, be a big part of the solution, you know, subject to today's belief. So things like this are going to be experimenting with dedicated lanes, and I think their effectiveness.
I can't wait to see the emails I get from this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Go for it.
Anyone who's talking about the things we're doing being a way to relieve congestion is lying to you. We will not relieve congestion in a city that's growing this fast. What we can do is we can create alternative options for people so that they can avoid that congestion if they want to utilize those alternative options.
That's Larkin.Eggleston at Charlotte,
There you
NC.
go. A fair point, though. We've got one other thing to topic, and one other thing to talk about. We'll do it on the other side of the break.